Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Decryption, and I hope you are well. A few episodes ago, we made this open selection tools button, or an editor utility button, where you can click it and it opens up a menu. And I said at the end of that episode, we were going to look at submenus and, making more advanced tool menus. And that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started. So at first you might think, what's the point of adding a button or a tool menu up here? You don't really need something that often, but the more you do game development, the more you find these little shortcuts that really do help things. So for example, this selection tools here, it's just a little widget I created that helps me build modular worlds a bit easier. So take this scene here, every single thing in this building, and it's literally just a single building, but everything inside of it is modular, all the floors, carpets, flowers. If I'm moving tons of things around, it takes ages. So clicking all of this and then having to click all the other table, and then, I move it forwards. Then I need to go and get the students, so I'll go and select them. Then I realise I've moved the table wrong, so I have to go back and select them all. It's just a bit of a pain, something that's annoying in Unreal. So I just quickly mocked up this here, so I can come in and say, this is tables. I really don't know why that keeps resetting to black, but I'll look at that. And I can say add selected to slot. So you see it's gone up to 6. I can now come and select the students, and then I can say add a new slot. There you go, I've added a new slot, so we'll say students. And it means at any point I can go, hey, I want to select those tables, so we'll select it. And now I've got all the tables, or I want to select the students. And I can even click select a pen to select both. And it's just got nice little tools like that I use to build this area a lot easier. And that's a tool that I find myself using more and more. But to load that tool up, I have to come to the content drawer, so that's one step. I have to close all my menus, that's a second step. Come to editor, that's a third step. Remove any filters, that's a fourth step. Find it, right click it, and there's a lot of little things like that we can build into it for loads of things. So for example, we did a patrol path series here. Having that as a toolbar option, or even removing the widget entirely and just having those buttons, can be essential and help speed things up massively. Or like changing maps. If you ever do dev maps, changing maps is a real pain. Well, it's not such a pain, it's just a thing you do a lot. So what we're going to do in today's tutorial is we're going to look at expanding our toolbar into a lot more features and functionality. You will kind of need to follow the previous tutorial we did to add the button, but if you don't want to, you should be able to roughly follow along. You might not have all the information, but the key thing is we have two things. We have a editor utility object, which controls all the logic for what you want to add, and then we have an actual button or a menu or a type of tool menu entry, which controls the functionality of the button or whatever and the looks of it. That's pretty much the key. So let's start by creating a little drop-down menu. You can see Ultra Dynamic Sky has done the same thing here, so we've got a good reference point. So this is roughly what we're going to aim for, but we're going to have sub-menus in ours. So let's start by creating the actual menu drop-down. So I'm going to come into my editor folder, and I'll just create a new folder for it called Toolbar Additions, just so it's all nice away. And inside here, I will create a editor utility blueprint, and I'll just search for tool menu entry. I'll call this one EUB underscore toolbar addition underscore menu, something like that, and I'll open it up. This is going to be the main drop down. One thing I showed in the previous tutorial is in order to find where you want to put it, you need to actually get the name of that widget, because everything in Unreal is a type of widget, essentially. It's called a slate UI. There is a command we can run to make this a lot easier. In your console, if you just run toolmenus.edit with a 1 or a 0, it will enable edit mode, so you can basically peek around and see everything. And you can really change a lot of the code, or even add buttons almost anywhere. It's quite open source in a sense, which is quite nice. Here, I know I want to add it to this bar here near the end, but you can add it to the secondary one over here, edit menu, anywhere you want really. But for me, I want it over here, so I'm just going to come click the little edit button here, and now we can see the name of what we want to use, which is level editor.levelEditorToolbar.user, and that's up there. You can also select the existing ones just to confirm what they've got on it. Look, that's the one we set up last time. So I'm going to take that text, come back to my menu, and I'm just going to set it in the class defaults menu here. So that'll say, for this child, this is where it's going to be rendered. For the section, it doesn't really matter for this menu. It's more for inside menu options, but it's how you match them up to the sections like help, general utilities, stuff like that. I will also give a big shout out to Ultra Dynamic Sky. I used their code as reference to push the knowledge for me, but there was a lot of stuff I had to go to Google and find that as well. There's a lot of good stuff there as well. So if you're an Ultra Dynamic Sky, it's a good plugin. Next is the name. The name is something unique. This is what it renders the slate with. So if you have a completely random name each time, it will just keep generating the same things over and over again. So it's good to remember the name. So I'm just going to call this Toolbar Additions. And then the label is what you'll see. So I'm just going to call mine DevTools. Tooltip is if you hover over it. So I'm just going to do view all the custom DevTools. And then we come to icons. There is a link in the description for this page here. I don't know who put this together, Epic Kiwi. It's got a list of all the slate widgets on. So if you can think of the widget you want to place here, just search for a name for it. So I'm searching for DevTools. Is there anything with dev in it? Oh, what was that developer menu icon? That'll do. Developer menu icon. So I'm going to copy that, come back to my menu and just paste it into the style name and style name small. You can get smaller icons if you want. It's meant to be more efficient, but I don't need that. And then just set style set name to editor style, capital E, capital S. It's on the description page again, but it's just easier there. Owner name is how you group all of these widgets together. So in one fell swoop, if you say you want to remove it, you just remove the owner name and it will remove everything. Almost like a tag if you wish. So I'm just going to call mine DevTools. And then I'll call all of my things DevTools in the owner name, but the name will be unique. The insert position I'm not using, but you can change where you position it and where it orders if you want to. Tutorial highlight, honestly, I don't know. I couldn't find much information about it, so I'm kind of ignoring that. For our menu, I'm going to set the entry type to be toolbar combo button. So that's how we get the little, we don't go any up here, drop downs. And the user interface type I will set to a button because it will be a button we click. For the style name override, because we want it to look like one of these buttons instead of looking terrible, we just set it to palette toolbar. And then depending on what you want, you can untick or tick this should close window. Basically all it means is if you come in and select something, does that menu then disappear once you've selected it or does it stay on? For me, I thought I would have wanted it ticked so it always closes when I select something. But I actually found myself preferring to keep it open. So if I made a mistake, I can just click on and fix the mistake right there and then. I don't have to re-click through all the menus. And it's just one click to get off it, which I have to click to carry on anyway. So I like it unticked personally. And I'm going to tick run on startup. This just means if Unreal restarts, it will run this. Now, for the most part, that is the menu setup. But we actually need to tell our object class to actually use it. So back on our EUB toolbar additions, so this is an editor utility object. So just right click, editor utilities, editor blueprint, and then just select editor utility object. I'm going to go and get rid of this edit menu because that's getting confusing for a lot of things. So just tools menu edit 0. There we go. So in here, this is how you set up the logic to actually spawn the widgets. You can do other things with it. But basically, come and override the function run. And this is how we've added the main button here. But we're going to actually make this a lot easier and more performant for ours. So I'm going to just drag this up. And I'm actually going to come and take all of this, right click, and I'm just going to do collapse to function. And I'm going to call this function add menu. And I'll drag it up here. I'll double click into it. And we're going to make this very generic, so it basically just adds a menu when we tell it to, like a submenu if we want it to. For the get here, I'm just going to drag it down and connect the target to the add menu, so we pass it into it. And I'll call this get menu. I'll come and paste this back over here so we've got it for later. And all this get widget does, you get that by doing get menu tool or tool menus. It's the get one here. It just loads the toolbar into memory, I believe. So you've actually got a reference to it. And then for the extend menu, we need to pick which menu we're extending upon. We've already discussed that we're adding it to this top bar, but as a sub menu, you will add it to the dropdown. So this one here, UDS documentation, isn't added to the user bar, it's added to the user bar dot ultra dynamic sky. I'm just going to basically promote that to a variable as well, like that. Connect the exec pins up. The construct, I'm going to set it to our menu. The class, I'm just going to promote to a variable as well over here so we can pass it into it. And I'll alt click off that because we're going to have two types of menus for a normal menu and a sub menu. If you come and set the class here to edit a tool menu entry and make sure to set it to a class reference, it just means that this return value works correctly, as you can see, so it knows what it is. I'm not going to worry about the data because I don't want to do any of that modification in this function. And then we can basically just bring this all the way back and plug it in. So the return value goes to in object and this goes to there. So all this means now is we've got a short little function that we can push in, we can get the menu for it, we can add the new widget, and then we can push it to the menu. So back on our event graph, we should easily be able to tie this in just by connecting it all up. And then we've got the get menu, which is perfect. The name is going to be our long one that we had before. So that'll be the user one, because that's where we're adding it. And the class will be our toolbar addition menu. Now, if you hit compile and save and come back to your main world, if you simply right click the additions and do run, you'll see you now have a dev tools option. Clicking it does nothing because we've not added any options, but we do at least have a drop down coming along. You'll see it looks a bit crap because it's squashed right next to it. Just come into your menu and add a space before the label. I do not know why you have to do this. It's annoying. Regenerate it and it'll look nicer. There you go, look. You can also add the spacer in if you want before. I'm not going to worry about that because this selection tools is going to disappear eventually anyway. So now we've got that, let's start adding some bits in. So the first thing we want to add is a section. That is these help general utilities, the lines, you know, the basic breakdowns for it. So I'm going to come back to the additions. I'll duplicate the menu, the add menu function, and I'll call it add section. So we don't need the construct or the add menu, so we can drag them back a little bit. And before we call extend menu, what we actually want to do is from the get is just call set section label. And then we can connect it up like so in the middle of it. And you see it wants some specific values. So the menu name will be our name. We can just pass that up. The section name is the actual unique name of this specific section. So you can say add this button inside this section if you need to. So we'll promote that to a variable. And the label, again, I will also promote to a variable. And I'll just remove the class because we don't need that anymore. And then you can basically connect it up like that and have the extend menu next to it. Because I believe you have to call extend menu in order to actually make it work. But we may test that. But if I come back to the event graph now, I can drag the add section in. And let's start dragging it across. So we'll stick the get in. The name of where we want to put it is going to be our main level editor level toolbar user. But we want it inside the drop down. So if we come back to the menu and get the name toolbar additions, add it onto the end of it. If you want to know how to find that out, if you're not sure, come back to the main widget, run the command tool menus edit 1, and click the little edit icon, select your dev tools, and it'll tell you the name, what you need to add right there. So it'll be whatever that is, dot name, pretty much. And I'll come and set that back to 0. The section name is what we want to call it. So for my first one, I'm going to call it levels. And the label, I will also just call levels as well. And we won't be able to run it yet because the section won't show unless we've got something inside the section. So now we can start actually looking at adding our buttons. So one of the things I showed on the end of the previous video is we had a little button to open a common map. So one that you always probably open, like a pinned one. So I'm going to come back to add menu and I'll duplicate it one more time and I'll just call it add level button. And I'm specifically calling it a level button because the functionality will be different depending on whether you do a UI or whatever you want to do. We'll always extend the menu because that's the menu we're trying to add it into. The construct editor utility, we don't need to pass in the class because we're going to make a specific one. So I'll come back to this toolbar button and I'll duplicate it and I'll call it toolbar button underscore level and I'll open this. We don't need any of this. But the code we want to run is if we just drag off of the execute and do load map. You won't be able to use open map or anything because we're in an editor widget. I'll delete the editor utility widget and just promote this file name to a variable called file name. Make sure it's exposed on spawn and instance editable. Compile and save. And then you can come and set some options if you want to. I'm not going to set loads. The minimum I'm going to set is the menu. We know what the full menu's name is. If we come back to our, here it's the toolbar additions. So we'll paste that in, but we are going to override that eventually. The section, this is what we want now. So we want it inside the levels section. So I'll add that in. The name, I'll just call it open level, but again, we'll be dynamically changing that. The label, open level, it's another one we'll change. Icon is definitely a good one to change, just to make it look nice. So I'm just going to come and search for something like world. I don't know. Yeah, scene outline of world will do for me. I'll copy that and I'll just come and set the icon. Everything else should be pretty much the same. But the key thing is, because we're now not adding a button, we're adding it inside, is we want to change the entry type to be a menu entry. And the user interface action type is to none. And we'll hit compile and save. Now we can go back to our toolbar additions and go to the add level button. The class we want is going to be our toolbar level. The file name I'll promote to a variable. We can come and delete the class off because we know we don't need that. And this is the key thing we need to now do. So I'm going to make a bit of space over here. I'll promote this to a variable, a local variable called new button, just so it's a bit easier to deal with. And I'll also promote the menu extension to a local variable just to keep it clean. Call it extended menu. Connect it all up. And now on this add menu entry object, we can just drag in our two variables and use those instead. Just makes it a lot cleaner. Then the key thing we want to do here is drag off of the new button and do get data, which is the data down here. We have full access to modify it. We want to drag off the data and do set members. And then straight off of the new button, we want to reset the data back to itself, or at least a modified version, because then we can modify the label and name and then reuse this function a lot. So if we look down this set here, which options are we going to want to modify? Let's make a bit of space. We're definitely going to want the menu for when we start doing submenus. The section will be useful, the name and the label. You can do the icon as well if you really want to, but for me, these are all going to be level buttons, so I don't need to do that. And we'll hit compile and save. So for the label, I am actually going to automatically generate that based on the file name, because that's what I think works for me. So from the label, I'll drag back and do format, and I'll just say open curly brace level close curly brace to create a little format node. And then from the file path, I'll drag down and do parse into array because it's a string. The delimiter is going to be a slash. That's mainly because the file path will be like this. It will be game/maps/devmaps or whatever yours will be. Because we've got the slash and on the end of the file name, it will say, the name of your map. I can drag off the array and do get. I can also drag off the same array and do get last index. And then plug the last index into the get and plug the get into the level like so. And that should get us a very neat looking one. For the name, we should be good to connect that to the existing name, but the section and the menu will have to be connected up. So I'll just drag that to the function on both of them. And it looks messy, but we can come back across, hold Alt to disconnect them. But now we have some variables we can use. So I can drag off of the menu and do get menu. And I can also do get section. And to be honest, we don't even need to do this with the name. We can do the exact same thing, get name. And we want the variable version. And in theory, that should be the button now set up ready to go. So we can come back to the event graph. We can add the level button into it. See, we've got a lot more options. The get menu is going to be this get menu. So we can now start coming and setting the name. So the name is our full drop-down name. So we'll paste that in. The file name, for now, let's just go and get one of our main maps. So it'll be game, for me at least. Everything starts at game. Then for me, it's maps _ and my main world is landscape WP because that's the main world I often go back to. For yours, it will be game/ wherever you store your maps and then your map name. For the menu, we can paste in the full menu where we need to go to, and I've realized I've made a slight mistake. The name isn't the menu path, it's the unique one, so open landscape map. The section is the section we want to add it in, which is our levels section. And just because I did make that minor mistake, if you jump back into the add level button, we do actually need to promote name back to another variable, but we're going to rename it. So name 1 will be unique name, and then the main name at the top will be menu name, like so. So it knows which menu to go to, and it knows what unique name to call it. We don't need to worry about that on the menu because we've only got one at the moment. And we don't need the menu either. We can just use the same menu name that we've got up there. Unique name, open landscape map. Make sure to set the menu name to the full path that we're doing it, and it should look a little bit like that. So let's give it a try now and see how it looks. So remember, you always have to rerun it. So right click and let's check it out. You'll see now we have our section of levels and it says open game/maps landscape WP. How cool is that? And if we select it, it will lag because this is my biggest world, but it will indeed change the world. How cool is that? It's a lot easier than hunting through the content drawer when I know I go to that map often. There we go. It's loaded up. Very nice. I fixed the name. Apparently, I just put a space in the delimiter. Just get rid of the space. You just want a pure slash. And there we go. Open landscape like that. So you can come and add in any other maps you've got that you use often. That's like your pinned maps in my case. So for me, I'm probably going to add one more for the NPC spawner. Because we've got such a nice way of doing it, we can actually make it a bit easier. So I'm going to add a variable here called pinned levels. I'll set it to a string and right click it to turn it into an array. And I'll hit compile and we can come to the default values now and add the default pinned values. So for me, I want /game/map/dev maps for the NPC spawner, and I can take the landscape and I can also add it on. Again, this is entirely your map. Main menu, level 1, level 2, level 3, main menu, whatever you want. But now that we've got that, we can just drag this off a little bit, add the pinned levels in for each loop over them, connect to the loop body, connect the array element to the file name. But we run into a bit of an issue now because we need to provide it a unique name. So what I'm actually going to do is jump into add level button and I'm going to come and remove unique name. And instead, I'm going to use the parsed map name here because slashes and stuff in a name is probably not great. You might be able to use it, but we don't want to. Instead, I'm just going to use the file name and I'm going to plug it directly into the name like so. Because the actual file name is going to be unique. We're not going to have multiple of them called the same thing. And now I can come back to event graph, hit compile, and there we go. So if we try it this time, if we run the re-additions, we should now have it automatically pulling both pinned maps in. But you'll see we've got a bit of an issue. It's duplicated the landscape. They'll both work. But this is a key thing about it, is that unique name also drives recreation. Which means if you change how it runs, it's going to mess it up a little bit. If I restart Unreal, it will clear all the UI and recreate it, that's fine. But a little quick fix that I've done, that I prefer to run, is at the very beginning of it, I'm just going to wipe the entire UI. Once I've finished developing it, I'll probably end up removing it. But we'll do a quick removal, so I'll just get the whatever the state of the toolbar is in. I'll drag off and I'll do unregister owner by name. And the name is whatever we called our main toolbar here. So toolbar additions, let's wipe that off. And for an extra cleanup, after we've done that, I'm going to re-get it again in the clean state. And I'm also just going to tell it, just in case, also remove the menu. And the menu name we want is our full one that we've created the actual section/menu with. The full one. So that. We can wrap this in a quick comment saying remove existing, and now we can connect it back together, and in theory it should now completely wipe it off. Perfect, that's exactly what we need. Like I say, once we've finished developing this, I'll probably comment that out, just move it away a little bit because we don't really need it. But now we've got this, so we want to add a submenu so we've got all the other levels in. Because when I'm changing levels, going to the content drawer, finding the folder, it's just too much work. If we could just have a little helpful menu here, but not all the way down, like a submenu if we need to go in, that's going to be really cool. And we absolutely can do that because we've got access to a lot of editor tools. So right at the end of here, we'll just wrap this top one in a comment, generate pin levels. Then under here, we want to basically do the same thing, but come up with a different string list of levels. How we're going to do it is we're going to right click and do get asset registry. And this is going to get us basically how Unreal categorizes the entire content drawer. You'll see some advanced plugins like Narrative Tales uses the asset registry to let you specify where to search for it to make the plugin a lot faster. After this, we're going to drag off and do get assets by path. And I'll connect this to the completed. And this is basically which folder do you want to search in. So for my game, it's /game/maps. I want it to find every map in that game folder. If you do /game, it may lag your interface a little bit, so try to shrink it down. I will say I want it recursive, so it goes into all the subfolders. And now I can drag off of the asset data and do a for each loop to loop over everything, because we don't automatically just want to add everything, we need to check it. So if I come to my maps folder, you see I've got a bunch of stuff here I don't want to be adding in. So how we check if it's a type of level is we drag off the array element and do get class, and then we will drag off the class and say, is it a child of? And we want to specifically choose a world. Is it a class of world? So is it a level? Is it a map? Something like that. We'll add a branch in. And if it's true, then it means we can now construct the button. So we'll grab this add level button and we'll paste it down here. Connect it up. So the get menu, we basically want this one here. Unfortunately, we can't create node variables of this. It's kind of locked away for some reason, which is the one annoyance with it all. We'll just connect the menu over to it like that. And then we can double click it and we just make it a bit neater, you know. There, a bit neater. And then for the menu level name, we are going to do a subfolder in a moment. But for now, we'll just keep it at that one so we can test it inside the level section. The file name, let's drag off the array element and we'll do full name. Now the problem with this full name is it comes out a little bit weird because it comes out /engine/ Unreal or something, then there's a space for some reason, then it's /game/map/your map, which is fine, then it's a dot, and then it's your map again. Really, really weird. I don't know why, but we need to clear that bit up so it looks basically without the engine part and without the dot part, because then that's how our file path will work. Super easy to do. We'll drag off of get full name and we'll do split. And this will split it on a specific point it finds. So we know there's a space in it. So we'll say split on a space. Let's get some more room. And then from the right of it, because the space is in the middle, we want the right side of it. We will do another split. But this time, we're going to split on a dot, which will get that final dot. And we can just take left S into file name like that. And if we hit compile and save this time, it's going to look very messy now with the amount of maps that you'll have in whichever folder you've specified. So we'll just give it a comment of find all maps, compile and save. And you'll see, if we run it this time, our DevTools now has every single map, all named correctly. And you can see I can come and click it, and it will almost instantly load like that. So let's add a submenu to put all of these non-pin ones into. So just the rest that we don't need yet. So we've got two choices. We could go to add menu and we could expose the data and we could do a bunch there. Or we can just create a new one of these tool menu entries. It's kind of up to you, but I'm actually going to go with duplicating the menu, and we'll have two. We'll have a submenu version and a menu version. And then we can just make the submenu one change the bits it needs, because we need to change a couple of these interface types as well. So I'm going to come to this menu here. I'll duplicate it and just call it submenu, and I'll open it up. So we don't want it going to the main widget here. We actually want it going to inside our existing main menu, because that's how you'll stack them. The section, we want it inside the labels section, but we can of course expose that and change it if we want to. The name of this one will be levels submenu, but again, we will expose it and change it. The label, I will just call it all levels, something like that. Tooltip, view, list all levels. You can add menu icons if you want to. I keep closing the website down, so I'm just going to keep it as is for now, but feel free to go and change it. I'm just going to put the world one on for now. The owner name, I'm going to keep as DevTools again, so if we remove DevTools, everything's gone. And then the key thing down here is the entry type's got to be a type of combo button with an action type of button, but we want to tick is submenu, and then you've got a choice. You can either open submenu on click or hover. It's up to you. I'm going to do on click because I feel if I hover over and get a big menu, it might get a bit messy. So I'm going to keep it like that. We'll hit compile and save. Back to our toolbar additions. So I'm going to come and duplicate the add level button because that's got a lot of the bits we need really. And I'll just call it add sub menu. Then we want to expand the menu like normal, but we don't want to use this class. We want to use our sub menu. We don't pass the file name into the sub menu, so that's okay. We can ignore that. We'll change the new button variable type to be our sub menu like that. Click change variable type. Don't worry about it erroring. We'll fix all this in a moment. But it means we can now connect it up like so. We can get the data from it, and then we can now expose the ones we want, which I think for the most part they're all exposed. You could probably expose icon again if you wanted to. I'm not going to, just in this case. And then because we copied from the button, most of it's all synced up nicely. We'll just make sure all these variables are connected up like that so it's not erroring. And then the key thing is we no longer want it to be the level one here. But I'm just going to come over here, drag off and do get file name. And I think that's everything we need to do there. So if we jump back to an event graph, before we do all of this find all maps we can drag down, we'll drag the add submenu in and plug it into the completed. The get menu, let's double click and just plug that into it like so. And now we can start building it up. So the menu name will be our toolbar additions. The file name will just be all levels. The section will be inside our levels section. And now that we've added it like that, we can now connect it down to the assets down here. And we'll make a little bit of space with this, just to make it look neat. And then down here, when we're generating the button here, instead of the menu name being toolbar additions, on the end of it, we want to put our section name, all levels, like so. And we have got a space in there. So let's just jump back into our submenu a moment because we've missed the level. So what I will do, I'll move the file name into the label like so. And the name, I will promote to a variable, just dragging it to the event. I'll call it unique name. I'll disconnect it and just neaten it up a bit. And you could technically convert the file name to a text if you want to. I'll do that later, that's fine. But now in here, we can set the file name to all labels and the unique name without a space to all levels. So it's just more consistent. And at the end of this, we can put it on. So level editor toolbar user, that's the main bar across the top. Toolbar additions is our dropdown. All levels is submenu that we've added. Now if we hit compile and save this time, ladies and gentlemen, if we run our new script, you will see we have a submenu here. And you'll see I've turned on the click one, so I have to click it, you will just hover, and it's all built in like that. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? You can, of course, expand this submenu however you want. A submenu acts just like a menu. I don't know if you can have sub menus. Let's try it, because I have no idea if that's going to work. Completely off topic, but I want to know. Add a basic submenu. We'll connect the get menu to it. The level name, we'll add it to toolbar additions. This will be more levels. The menu name will be the all levels menu names. As you can see, it gets quite long. The section will be levels, but the unique name will be all levels too. And then I'll just copy the add level button and just add it directly next to it like so. Copy the full menu name and then add the all levels 2 on the end of it because it's a sub menu. And we'll just do a testing level. Compile save. Let's see if we can do sub menus. Right click, run editor. You can. So yes, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can absolutely, I've messed something up, but yes, you can. You can have multiple levels of if you want to. It's almost, as you can see, exactly how this works here as well. It's pretty cool learning that about the engine, isn't it? Oh yes, I didn't connect the get menu up. So if you connect the get menu up properly, you will see it does actually work. Look at that. Sub levels. How cool's that? Now, this video is getting ridiculously long, ladies and gentlemen, so I am going to end it now, and we will crack on with the next episode of looking at the editor voodoo stuff. But we've now got a drop down where you can come and open pinned levels, and you can view all the levels, and you can quickly just switch between them. Just like that, look. I can switch between them. It stays on the screen. How quick is that? How cool. It's so cool. But yes, we can switch between them really, really easily. So in the next episode of this, we're going to expand upon this tool. I'm going to add some more subsections if you wish. We're going to look at making it open some of our existing tools. You very well will be able to figure it out based on what we've done here already and based on the open selection tools, but we'll make it open our assets in with a new section. But we're also going to look at an actual new editor tool where it automatically creates these dev maps. So we'll have it so as a button here, you click create new level or dev level. It gives you a few tick boxes. Do you want a plane? Do you want ultra dynamic sky? Do you want a nav mesh? And then we'll make it automatically create, save the map ready for you to go. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that was cool. Tell me, what cool things are you going to add to your dev map up here? I know some plugins add their documentation to it. What are you going to add? I've got a bunch of editor tools that I use that I'm very most likely going to add, such as my asset selection saver. If you want a tutorial on that, let me know. I can also just drop the code into GitHub or something if you want to. It's very, very useful. Something that should be built into Unreal. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this was helpful. My name is Decryption, and I will see you next time.